A different kind of day. All right. Welcome back to the show, folks. Now, today is gonna be a little different. Let's just call it a curveball headed your way. Something we've been working on behind the scenes. Top secret stuff. I'm talking Mission Impossible levels of secrecy. Don't worry, nobody's getting exploded. Probably. Just, buckle up. The audience chuckled, used to Steve's playful teasing. Behind the cameras, a controlled chaos reigned. Stagehands whispered frantically, adjusting lighting rigs with millimeter precision. A production assistant, eyes darting nervously, clutched a tablet displaying a cryptic countdown timer. Usually, there was a comfortable rhythm to the show's pre-tape segments, a predictable ebb and flow. Today, the air crackled with a nervous energy. Steve launched into his usual opening banter, cracking jokes about dating mishaps and questionable fashion choices. He even indulged in a rapid-fire round of Ask Steve, dishing out his signature brand of no-nonsense advice. But beneath the surface, a subtle tension simmered. His usual booming laughter seemed a touch forced, his eyes holding a flicker of something akin to apprehension. "Now, before we get to our next guest," he said, a slight tremor in his voice, "we got a little detour we need to take, something that's been a long time coming, something personal." He paused, looking off camera, his expression unreadable. The music shifted, the bright, upbeat tempo fading into a softer, more melancholic melody. The lights dimmed, casting long shadows across the stage. This wasn't the Steve Harvey show anyone expected. This was something else. The road to here. The lights dimmed, and a montage flickered across the massive screen behind him. A younger Steve Harvey, sporting a kaleidoscope of ill-advised suits, sweating under the harsh glare of comedy club spotlights. Jokes that landed with a thud, jokes that detonated in gales of laughter. The years peeled away, one punchline at a time. Then the rapid-fire, manic energy of Family Feud. The arched eyebrow, the knowing smirk, the explosive declarations of "survey says." He watched himself, a character he both knew intimately and observed from a distance. Next, the softer focus of his talk show. A single mother beaming as he presented her with a new car. A reformed convict, tears streaming down his face, receiving a scholarship to culinary school. He remembered the weight of those moments, the raw vulnerability he felt sharing space with such genuine human struggle. The montage ended, replaced by a series of quick sound bites. A producer. "Steve works harder than anyone I know. He's here before dawn, prepping, thinking, caring." A writer. "He's got this uncanny ability to connect with people, to see right through the facade." He felt a lump forming in his throat. It wasn't vanity, not exactly. It was something deeper, a validation of the long, winding, often pothole-ridden road to here. A road paved with doubt, rejection, and the constant, gnawing fear of failure. He thought of his mama, her unwavering belief in him even when he doubted himself. He closed his eyes, fighting back a wave of emotion. It was all for something. It had to be more than just a show. The screen danced with fragmented memories. Steve, a younger man with sharper features, hustling suds at a car wash. Steve, battling the silence of indifferent comedy club crowds. The microphone his solitary connection. Steve, finally embraced by the glow of television. The celebrated mustache and signature laugh echoing in packed arenas. It wasn't just a chronicle of fame, however. Woven in were glimpses of young men, faces alight with hope and admiration, hanging on Steve's every word. He watched himself showing them the correct knot for a tie, the art of direct eye contact, the conviction that they deserved a better life. The montage transitioned to Maria Rodriguez, a young woman whose keen eyes sparkled with intelligence. "Mr. Harvey saw something in me that nobody else did," she declared, her voice thick with emotion. "Potential, I suppose. I was just a kid from the South Side with aspirations and no path forward. Now I'm a law firm intern, ready to give back. I'm indebted to him." Next, brief testimonials from local leaders lauded the Steve and Marjorie Harvey Foundation, itemizing the scholarships granted, the community hubs erected, the sheer magnitude of quiet philanthropy conducted far from the cameras and the glitter of Hollywood. A knot tightened in Steve's throat as he watched. Tears threatened once more, not from the Statham prank, but from this outpouring. This was a heritage, constructed painstakingly, on the bedrock of renewed opportunities and steadfast belief. His deepest hope was that his efforts sufficed, that he was sufficient. The burden of that role, a burden he shouldered with pride, settled upon him, a tangible weight. Voices of gratitude. The screen flickered, a montage of Steve's life unfolding. Boyhood photos faded into stand-up routines, then into the polished set of his talk show. He watched, a strange disconnect settling in. It felt like watching someone else's highlight reel, a life meticulously curated for public consumption. But then the images shifted. Faces younger filled the screen. Faces he recognized. "My name is Maria Rodriguez," a young woman said, her voice clear despite the slight tremor. "Before I met Mr. Harvey, I was lost. My grades were slipping. I was headed down a bad path. He saw something in me, something I didn't see in myself." The screen showed Maria shaking Steve's hand, a hesitant smile on her face. Now, on the screen, that hesitation was gone. "He connected me with internships, pushed me to apply for scholarships. I'm now interning at a law firm, and I'm going to graduate debt-free. He didn't just give me a handout, he gave me a hand up." More faces followed, a kaleidoscope of gratitude. A young man who'd opened a barbershop, a woman who'd started a community garden, a budding engineer accepted into MIT. Each voice, a testament to Steve's quiet acts of kindness. B-roll footage played. Steve mentoring a group of teenagers, teaching them to tie ties, sharing a laugh over a shared meal. The genuineness of those moments, unscripted and raw, hit him harder than any award or accolade ever could. A lump formed in his throat, a tightness spreading in his chest. It wasn't the applause he craved, but the quiet knowledge that he'd made a real difference. A single tear escaped, tracing a path down his cheek. A star-studded salute. The screen flickered, morphing from Jason Statham's grizzled face to a rapid-fire montage of Steve's life. Stand-up gigs in dingy clubs, Showtime at the Apollo, The Steve Harvey Show, Family Feud, and then faces. Familiar, dazzling faces. Kevin Hart popped up, grinning wider than ever. "Yo, Steve. What up, big fella? Listen, I gotta say, you're an inspiration, man. From selling insurance to selling out stadiums. That's a glow up. Seriously though, thanks for always keeping it real, even when you're wrong. Which is, often. Love you, man." He winked, and the screen zipped to another face. Tyler Perry, his voice thick with genuine emotion, filled the frame. "Steve, I don't know if you truly understand the impact you've had. Not just on entertainment, but on lives. You believed in me when a lot of folks didn't, gave me a platform, and that changed everything. Thank you. From the bottom of my heart." The cuts became frantic. Cheryl Underwood blowing a kiss. Cedric the entertainer raising a glass. Taraji P. Henson shouting, "Steve Harvey, you the GOAT." Oprah Winfrey, nodding slowly, a knowing smile playing on her lips. Diddy, flashing a diamond-encrusted grin. "Steve, you a mogul. Baby, get that money." Steve felt a fresh wave crash over him. It wasn't just about the fame, the fortune. It was about the lives he'd touched, the doors he'd helped open. The weight of it, the sheer magnitude, pressed down on him, but it was a good weight, a grounding weight. He blinked, trying to clear the blur in his vision. He had thought Jason's message was the peak. He was wrong. The unlikely messenger. The screen flickered, showcasing a montage of Steve's life. From his humble beginnings to conquering comedy stages, and finally, his reign as a talk show titan. Laughter and tears, triumphs and tribulations. A tapestry woven with grit and grace. As the lights dimmed, a familiar figure materialized. "All right, listen up." Jason Statham began, his trademark scowl plastered across his face. "Harvey, I hear you've been getting all emotional and whatnot. Pull yourself together, mate. Ain't no room for weakness in this game." He cracked his knuckles, the image almost comical against the backdrop of Steve's life reel. Steve chuckled, wiping his eyes. "Oh, come on, Jason. You don't have to do the tough guy routine for me." Statham's expression softened. He cleared his throat, the steely gaze replaced with a hint of vulnerability. "Right? Sorry about that. Force of habit, I suppose." He paused, shuffling his feet, a gesture utterly incongruous with his action star persona. "Look, Steve, your story, it resonated with me. More than you know." He took a deep breath. "My own father. He wasn't around much. But your shows, they felt like a father figure in a way, filling a void." The admission hung heavy in the air, a stark contrast to the bravado of seconds before. "So, thank you, Steve. From the bottom of my heart. A debt of kindness." The screen flickered, morphing from a childhood photo of Steve, perched on a dusty tire, into a rapid montage of his career. Stand-up gigs and smoky clubs, the Kings of Comedy tour, Family Feud. Steve watched, a lump forming in his throat, the weight of it all pressing down. Then, Jason Statham stepped forward, his usual granite expression softened. "Steve," Statham began, his voice unexpectedly gentle. "You're known for the laughs, the suits, the bald head." A ripple of chuckles spread through the audience. "But there's a story most people don't know. A few years back, my sister, Sarah, was going through a rough patch. Real rough. Lost her business, facing eviction. It was ugly." He paused, swallowed hard. "She's always been fiercely independent. Wouldn't ask anyone for help." Statham continued. "Then, out of the blue, a check arrived. Enough to cover her debts, get her back on her feet. No name, just a note saying, 'Keep fighting.' Sarah never found out who sent it, but I did. A mutual friend let slip. It was you, Steve. You didn't want any thanks, any recognition." The camera zoomed in on Steve's face, tears welling in his eyes. Statham stepped closer to the stage, his usual swagger replaced by a palpable vulnerability. "So, mate, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. For Sarah, for being the kind of man who does good when no one is watching. You're a proper legend, Steve. More than anyone knows." The audience erupted in applause, a wave of genuine emotion washing over the studio. Steve wiped his eyes, a shaky smile forming. He hadn't expected this. Not from Jason Statham. Unmasked emotions. The giant screen flickered, images dissolving from Steve's childhood home to his early stand-up gigs. The montage a rapid-fire journey through a life lived loud. But it was the end, Jason Statham's earnest, almost shy, thank you that punched the air from Steve's lungs. He hadn't expected this. The lights in the studio felt harsh, suddenly amplifying every crease on his face, every tear welling in his eyes. He swiped at them, a reflex honed over years of performing. But this time, the dam threatened to break. A lump lodged in his throat, thick and resistant. "Man!" he rasped, voice cracking. He cleared it, tried again. I don't even know what to say." The studio audience held their breath, a sea of expectant faces blurred by his watery vision. He usually had a quip, a comeback, a perfectly timed joke. Now the well was dry. "I grew up with nothing," he finally managed, the words tumbling out, raw and unpolished. "Absolutely nothing. And I always promised myself, if I ever got the chance to help, to really make a difference." He trailed off, gesturing vaguely. The screen behind him showed a picture of his mentoring program for young men, their faces beaming with hope. "It ain't about the money, y'all. It's about giving somebody else a shot. Seeing them fly." He sniffed, the vulnerability on his face stark against the usual bravado. The applause started softly, then swelled, a wave of empathy washing over him, grounding him. He wasn't just Steve Harvey, the entertainer. He was Steve, the man who remembered where he came from. A lasting impression. The house lights lowered, and a poignant, unfamiliar chord progression resonated through the hall. Above, on the immense screen, a visual biography unfolded. Steve as a fresh-faced novice, his early stand-up routines met with near silence. Then, a rapid-fire sequence charting his ascent, the late nights, the relentless grind in comedy clubs, fleeting appearances on television. Woven in were candid glimpses of family life, moments of humor adjacent to instances of profound compassion, both humorous and heartfelt, tender and stern. It was a compressed chronicle, a testament to tenacity and enduring belief. A cascade of applause exploded as the final frame dissolved into the show's emblem. An ovation surged toward him, a palpable wave of genuine regard. Steve Harvey remained still for a moment, his throat constricted, moisture gathering in his eyes. The unexpected sincerity of Jason Statham's earlier tribute lingered. He blotted his eyes with a handkerchief, the monogrammed initials glinting briefly. Drawing a steadying breath, he finally spoke, his voice thick with emotion. "Well," he began, a soft chuckle escaping his lips. "You all certainly know how to touch a brother's heart." A wave of laughter rippled through the audience, easing the emotional intensity. "But truly," he went on, his voice taking on a gentler cadence, "this isn't about me. It's for that young boy who believed he was destined for nothing. It's about proving that, even when facing impossible odds, triumph is still attainable." He paused, his gaze sweeping across the audience, holding on certain faces in the front rows. "My purpose," he declared, his voice growing in strength, "has always been to lift others, to ignite their potential, to truly make a difference. And I assure you," he finished, his voice ringing with unwavering commitment, "I'm just getting started." A renewed swell of applause reverberated through the theater, even more powerful than before, imprinting itself on the memories of all present. The stage lights rose, signaling the end of the performance, but the electrifying atmosphere suggested that the experience was far from over.